Welcome, everyone, to Ladder Daily Digest. Ladder Daily Digest tries to do its best at promoting content producers. We honor producers of podcasts and authors and TikTokers. And today in the house, we have Cody. And Cody, is it okay to use your whole name?
I just use Cody. I don't use the last
We
name.
have Cody, and Cody's has a podcast called Ubermormon, and we'll be talking about that pretty soon. But Cody, tell us about yourself for a little while.
Okay, so I am the Ubermormon. It's an inside joke that I stole from Friedrich Nietzsche. Maybe later we'll talk about that, but I have talked about it on my channel. My very condensed version of my Mormon story, as we call it in the biz, and by we I mean John DeLynn, and then the rest of us. I was your star Mormon. I was all through high school.
And where'd you grow up?
Through the mission. I grew up in Utah. I grew up in Draper, Utah. I went to Jordan High School. That's going to probably give me away, but it's fine. I went there. Graduated seminary, Boy Scout before I was 14. That was like not Boy Scout, but Eagle Scout. Like I got my Eagle before I turned 14. That was a big deal to me. Went on a mission, rocked and rolled as hard as I could. I served in Huancayo, Peru, which is right dead center in the middle of Peru. Half the mission's on the beach side and half the mission is on the jungle side. It mounts the Andes. It's a very beautiful area. People are amazing. And I actually had a legitimately good time there, even though looking back, I wonder if I would do it again. But so I gave it my all on my mission, served hard. The last year of my mission, I spent 10 months serving in the office as the AP. Like I went hard.
That's a long time. Yeah.
Yeah, I was an AP for a long time. And
that means you helped arrange transfers and things.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I did. I want to say 7. Well, if you include the one that I was brought in for on training, I did 8 transfers.
And how many missionaries were in the mission?
About 300.
300, and you can name them right now if I asked.
I could name every single one in all the areas and all the states. Absolutely.
It's like, well, I know there was Elder so-and-so and Sister, what's her name?
Anyway. Yeah. And then Elder Smith and Sister Hales, And so I came home and got extremely, I guess depressed is the right word, but I guess it's a little more complicated than that. I came home and I wanted to start dating my high school girlfriend, who is now my wife. But she was not active, and she hadn't been active since she was about 10. So we start kind of dating in secret because all of my family is telling me that this girl is a bad influence, that, oh, you don't even know, while you were on your mission, she was out at sorority parties, and I saw alcohol in some of the pictures. Like people were spreading rumors and are really the dark underside, the rumor mill, and kind of the gossipy Mormon underbelly that I think a lot of people struggle with culturally really reared its ugly head.
And but the spirit told you that she was celestial material.
Yeah. And we were planning on, when we first started dating, we were planning on working to get to the temple. Maybe we weren't going to go straight to the temple and get married there first, but we were planning on getting married civilly, going through the ringer, getting all the interviews done, and then making it to the temple at the first year.
I believe Spencer Kimball was married civilly, and then a year later they made a trek up to Salt Lake.
Yeah. So, I mean, not something that, for whatever reason, it was not acceptable in the circle that I ran in to do that. It was actually really shocking and surprising to me. I had to kind of cut myself off from a lot of my friends and family members. I had an uncle show up once. I was attending school at UVU, and I had an uncle show up and say, "Hey, I want to take you to lunch." I was like, "Oh, okay." And then the conversation turned more and more towards like, it was more and more aggressive, and it was more and more like, you're disobeying, and like, you're, at one point he told me like, your marriage, if you don't start it right, it will fail. And it was really aggressive, and I was like, can we, and he drove me, so I was like, can we go back to school? Like, can we be done with this? And that
Got
was,
uncomfortable fast.
it got really uncomfortable really fast, and I didn't have another way to get to school other than him driving me back to school. So I had to like kind of put on a pretty like a happy face, but I also had to say like, hey, oh, I have a class starting soon, so I probably need to get back. And then I closed the car door, and as I was walking back to class, I was just like, what is happening? What? And it was it was not so much that I was looking to date an inactive member. It was the reaction that I was getting. It was like, when you take a toddler, like you take an iPad away from a toddler and they just throw a fit, and you just think to yourself, like, there must be something going on with that iPad. Like, the relationship between that toddler and that iPad is clearly unhealthy, because there's no way that they should be acting that way. And obviously, in the example, this is a toddler that we're talking about, but that's how I felt. It was like, all of a sudden, all these people around me who I had always looked up to and thought they were so spiritual and so good and so obedient, suddenly they were throwing these adult tantrums. And I thought, whatever is causing you to do this is not healthy. This is bad for us.
Didn't even seem Christian to you, probably.
It all of a sudden wasn't Christian at all. And I know now, and I can have compassion for those people looking back, but I know now that they were operating based on the information that they had, and they were worried about me, and they thought that this was my first step toward eternal damnation. And so looking back, I can recognize where they were, and I can be okay with that, and I can forgive them. At the same time, as soon as I saw that, I thought, there's no way that the loving God that I've been told exists has this big of a problem with me getting married to a girl who I think is amazing. And all of my family has now said, we were wrong about her. She's great. They haven't really like said, we're sorry that we were so mean to you guys, but they have recognized that they were wrong about her. And so that's when I guess that's kind of the first domino in my, I'm going to research this. There's no way that a true church would cause people to be this immature. The fruits that we're always taught about, right? The church claims that the fruits of the gospel are these happy, loving people. And I saw the dark underbelly of that. And I just said, no, this is a fruit that is rotten. And I need to take a second look at the entire tree. And so it took me about 3 years of just looking at both sides of literally everything. I mean, we all know what that feels like. All of us in the ex-Mormon world, where all of a sudden we're reading every church, like every publication by the church. Like, I read Rough Stone Rolling. I read No Man Knows My History. I was just reading everything. And at the end of the day, it was just like, this doesn't make sense to me. I don't think I can be this anymore. And then,
Right. Looking up
yeah.
quotes from the Journal of Discourses.
Yeah. And then it was,
And so
it
this is
started
you're finishing up school while you're doing all this?
well, so this is the part that that I kind of alluded to in the beginning, but I didn't do a very good job of tying it up. So I got all of these people turning on me like this. I closed everyone off. I got really depressed. I failed all of my classes for the next 2 semesters because I couldn't get out of bed. I was so like, I felt so cut off from every connection that I had, that I couldn't do life. And so I had school that I was supposed to be going to 2 days a week, and I just stopped, and I just started going to my job full time, and I just kind of shut everything else out, and I was just an emotional mess. And I it took me until about 2 years ago. So all of this happened in I got married first month of 2018. So it took me until about 2 years ago to go back to school, which I guess that is where my channel was born. I'm studying to become a therapist. And so I was learning things in class that I thought really resonated with my post Mormon self and the journey that I had gone on. And so I thought maybe I'll just start a channel where if I learn something that seems like to particularly strike a nerve and feel relevant to me in my situation now, I'll just do a quick little like informational video about that thing. And so those were my first videos. And I'm not done with school. I have another year before I get my bachelor's, but that's where things have ended.
So what whose podcast were you listening to before you started yours? Did you have any influences? And it could be any. It could be Bart Ehrman.
It was everyone. I mean, I was watching a lot of street epistemology I was watching a lot of Anthony Magnabasco. I was watching a lot of Mormon stories. I was watching a lot of like Zelf on the Shelf. I was also watching a lot of what's the name? Too many. I mean, I got obsessed with this guy named James Fowler, who was a theologian in the early 1900s. So I got obsessed with one of his books called Stages of Faith. I got obsessed with this. I was listening to a lot of Jordan Peterson. I was listening to just literally everything. I read Sapiens. That was crazy. Sapiens was a really eye-opening book for me because it was the first time I had ever had like a materialistic explanation of the utility of religion in a society and why humans would naturally form into religions so that they can interact with each other better and build something that they all have kind of a shared trust and shared belief in. And I'd never thought of religion that way. I'd always thought of it just like a prophet speaks and people listen. You know what I mean?
Right. God had a message and he chose a prophet.
So, I mean, I was listening to everything under the sun. And
was thoughts on things.
Oh, I loved, yes. Jonathan
Streeter.
Streeter was probably, I mean,
he's amazing.
To this day, he might be, which it's weird that I didn't think of him in the time, but you know, it's just,
no. I'm only trying to butter him up so that he'll come on my show someday.
Oh yeah. Jonathan is amazing. I love him. And, he was one of the guys who I thought when I watched him, I thought I might be able to actually like have conversations with people I care about these things, because he was able to do this thing where he's kind of having the meta conversation where he's not bringing up specific issues with the church. He's not speaking to a TBM and saying, explain to me why Joseph Smith was married to a 14-year-old, you know, because that's always a confrontational topic and it doesn't change anyone's mind. But he would say things like, it doesn't seem like the tools that were his wood tools and steel tools was huge for me, but he would be able to have this conversation about the conversation and say, is faith how you determine what's true? Like it was like he was able to step back and practice street epistemology with people. And I found that so motivating and so cool.
Like a 30,000-foot view of things.
Yes. Zoom way out and just have a much better conversation and perspective. And so
less
I love
judgmental.
That. Mm-hmm.
And it's a good way to do things. Yeah, Jonathan's amazing.
Yep. He's
and
awesome.
So what was your equipment back then when you first started? Did you have a laptop or?
So yeah, so before I dropped out of school because I was depressed from the whole leaving the church thing, I was a cinematography major. I was studying, I wanted to be a camera operator. And so I was working as a content creator for a company. I was doing all their marketing materials. So I had mics, I had cameras, I had video editing equipment. I had everything under the sun. And so I started with, Honestly, all I've bought since like really doing my channel is a cable and a few more batteries, and everything
Wow.
else is pretty much something that I already had. And the cable is only, I used to do these types of interviews on StreamYard with a little like USB webcam, and I just bought a cable that allows me to turn the DSLR that I was already using for content creation into a
Wow.
webcam. So yeah, I started out lucky because I had the passion for I mean videos and photos has been my hobby since I was a senior in high school. So I've been collecting equipment for 10 years at this point.
That's cool. So you could start with a higher production value than some people.
Yeah, and I do think that that helped. I remember I learned in one of my cinematography classes that if you have to choose between lower video quality or lower audio quality, always opt for lower video quality, because that little buzzing that is going to be in people's ears, they will not tolerate that as long as they will tolerate maybe a slightly out of focus view or something that isn't quite as high resolution.
That's
So
right.
I was, and I figure most people, the way I consume YouTube is I start a video, I throw it in my pocket, and then I just listen. And if there's something that seems like an obvious visual that I'm missing out on, I'll pull my phone out and I'll watch it. But other than that, I'm listening anyway. So I assume that's how people consume my content.
Did
So
you
I
did you
just,
plan out like your first 10 podcasts, the subjects? Did you write it on a piece of paper? What the
I wrote
strategy was?
I planned out probably the first 30 things. I just wrote down like every time I had this. So I think this might be the case for a lot of people, but I don't know. But I get into these moods where I'm just like ideas are popping into my brain. And if I don't grab them while they're there, I will forget about them. But then I could go 3 days or 4 days without having a single creative idea. And so what I made a goal with myself that just if a video idea popped into my head, I would write it down in a note on my phone. And I just accumulated this list of topics that I wanted to go over. And then when I had time to do a video, I would open up the list, I would look at it, and I would just
Pick
basically
something that looked good.
pick the one that I felt like I was prepared to speak about, and then I would do it. I'm bad at scripts. Usually what I'll do is I'll just film a video. Like I'll just grab my microphone, I'll start talking, and then I'll go, that was a stupid thing to say. I'm going to cut that out. I just do a whole bunch of live editing to myself. I give myself notes into the camera. I'm like, okay, cut that right there. Um, I start a list. Then it's like, okay, the logical step after that point is probably to talk about this. What's the best transition? And I build my script while my camera is recording, and then I just edit all of that out.
Was there at some point did you like diverge from that plan and do something on the spur of the moment that turned out
Oh
pretty
yeah,
good?
oh yeah. Most of my most of the stuff that I've done that has been the most popular has been um, and a video that I'm on the verge of making right now that's a little bit tricky for me to work out logistically because I have a 1 month old and then a 2.5 year old, and I'm just getting back into work, and so like any time at all to fit something into my schedule is very weird at the moment. But I'll decide to go down the apologetic rabbit hole, and I'll try to see what some apologists are saying about a topic that I find interesting. Or I've had a couple of friends or a couple of conversations with some friends over the holidays that are very centered on what faith is and what the purpose of faith is and what it does for you and what a prophet is and all of this stuff, and what's why the culture of the church is wrong but the actual church is not. And all of these conversations, I make notes in my head and I decide that I'm going to talk about those. And it's always like a spur of the moment. Like I had this conversation with my friend and it was really interesting, and I'm still thinking about it 3 days later. I'm going to do a video summarizing my points on the topic, and then I'll release that. And that's how like my most popular video of all time, which was why I left the church, which was a
Three
bit of
reasons.
a Yeah, the 3 reasons that I left the church. Kind of a clickbaity title, also perfect for SEO, so that probably played into it. But that was all based on a conversation that I had had with my dad like 2 days before I filmed that. And so that was never on my list, but I had the conversation with my dad, and it was like, as I had thought about those points before, but it wasn't until I used them in a conversation like that that I thought, oh, this might be helpful for somebody, so I'm going to make this video. And
Right.
so
And in a
most of
way,
my popular videos are spur of the moment videos. Yeah.
like Jonathan Streeter, you took like a 30,000-foot view of,
Yes.
in general, these 3 issues you don't really want in any organization that you
Right.
belong to.
Exactly. Well, I wanted to speak a language that my dad would understand, because if I just said Joseph
The
Smith
golden
was a
plates weren't
pedophile,
real.
yeah, like he's going to shut it down, and nothing that I say is going to like stick around in his brain, or resonate with him at all. And maybe nothing that I said did resonate in his brain, but I know that I was speaking, that I understood who my audience was in that conversation, and I spoke in a way that I knew he would resonate. And
Right.
so that and I feel like that's the type of content that I appreciate the most, is when you feel like the person who's speaking is trying to account for your worldview as they're speaking to you, and they're trying to like understand their audience before they just throw a bunch of word salad at you.
Right. And we'll have a link to that video
Yeah.
in the description. And so you released the video, and at the time, about how many subscribers do you think you might have had?
I probably had less than 200.
So it's less than 200. You've been averaging a few hundred views for each video at the time. And all of a
Yeah,
sudden, what happened? How did it explode?
well, that video in the next 4-ish days passed the 10,000 view mark, and the comments were wild. The comments were absolutely absurd. And that was it was crazy. It fueled me a little bit to watch, and I should have expected this, and now it's fine. But there were comments in there who were like, man, this guy is obviously sick. Look how skinny his arms are. Like, what a loser. Like, stuff like that. Where I'm like, you should feel like really lucky that that's not like, that used to be a really touchy thing for me. I was very like, I don't know what the word is right now, but that was like a touchy subject for me. I was very sensitive about how skinny I
Triggering.
was. Yeah. All through high school, being the guy who's like so skinny in high school sucks. And so I just thought, like, who are you that you're speaking to a stranger on the internet like this? Like, what if I was not skinny? What if I was extremely overweight and you were commenting on that? That would be really rude, right? Like, who
Or
are
would
you?
they
And
or would they believe you more if you just had more heft?
yeah, yeah. What if I was
This
super
guy knows
buff?
what he's talking about because he probably weighs 300 pounds.
Yeah, would that make my arguments make any more sense? Or if I was just jacked, you know what I mean?
Right.
But it was just weird things like that where people would find any reason to like make fun of me instead of, I don't know, understand where I was coming from, which again, I was doing a lot of work at the time to try and understand where people were coming from and meet them there, because I just kind of finished when I started my channel, I had just kind of made a resolution with all the family that I had a rocky road with. And so I just kind of walked through that and just kind of put on my big boy pants, I guess, and initiated really tough conversations. And it was when I released that video that I realized, like, oh yeah, most people aren't doing that. Most people
They're,
aren't
they're
initiating
scratching the
weird.
surface still.
Yeah, yeah, they're not going inward enough.
Yeah, that's too
So
bad.
yeah, that video, and then after that, that video just gave me an insane amount of momentum. Everything was growing after that. I mean, I haven't had a video get that many views that quickly since, but
Did it like double your subscribers in a couple of weeks?
oh yeah, within like 30 days, I was like, I don't know, I had tripled.
600 or so.
Yeah. It was really wild. And then that gave me then I felt some momentum. I was like, well, I have people watching me now. And I don't have a crazy amount of people. I have like 1,300 subscribers. And I'm sorry to you all that I haven't made anything in a while, but I'm working on it.
That's right.
But
And did you do any lives?
I did a few lives.
Uh-huh.
I don't know how good I am at being live.
Hmm. You're a much
I
better editor than you are.
Yeah, my superpower is editing, and the thing that I love about editing is sometimes this is actually really common for me is it will be the next day, I'll be finishing my edit and I'll think this is missing about 3 points that I should have made, and I'll walk into this room and I'll film those 3 points and I'll throw it right in. And it kind of gives me this like ability to be omnipresent in my video. Like at any time I can remember something and I can just throw it in and I can make it fit how I want it to fit, and make sure that I leave everything on the table.
A little bit ago, I released a video that I swear I trimmed the beginning and the end so it would be a clean entry. And then I was looking at it and it's like we're just chatting for 40 seconds before we start the show. And I guess I forgot to hit save or something like that because I'm just doing it in YouTube or StreamYard or
Yeah.
whatever. And so, lesson learned, hit save.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, it's good to just get those mistakes out of the way because, it'll happen again and it's an easy fix and
Yeah,
your
YouTube
audience will get to
allows
know. Yeah.
I just trimmed it, here and
Yep.
there, and it worked. And so it's weird though, like you trim like 7 seconds and it says this may take 3 hours to finish. It's like, why did it
To
take 3
be
hours to
live on
finish?
YouTube. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've posted a video, worked hard on the thumbnail. I go, I'm not going to save the PSD of the thumbnail. I'll just like delete that and export the JPEG. And then somebody in the comments or my wife will say, hey, you misspelled this word in the thumbnail. And I'm like,
Now you can't fix it.
yeah, now I have to remake it on Photoshop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
Times.
You just
I'm an
do a
idiot
screen
sometimes.
capture and then fix it that way, I guess, huh? And
Yeah.
so how long ago did you hit 1,000 subscribers?
Probably 4-ish months ago.
And what did it feel like
Actually,
to hit 1,000?
I was so surprised because I hadn't. It came up quick all of a sudden, and what helped with the most is I started dedicating time to actually turning my long form stuff into shorts, where I was saying something that was maybe the core point of a video, or maybe 3 times where I really summarized a point well. I would throw those out, and I tried to release like 2 a week.
And those
And
shorts would have either a link to your show or
well, they were just they
it
were
would.
just shorts on YouTube, and they would just like people if they liked it, they could just go find my channel and watch more and subscribe. Or
Yeah, sometimes I see other people's shorts and it
uh-huh.
has a good point, but I have no idea what episode it was from because
Yeah,
I'd like to see more context.
yeah.
And
I usually
they're not
like to try
putting.
and add the comment that has the link to the show, but usually the link won't work, and then the comments will say, "Hey, this link
Broken link.
isn't live," and I go, "Yeah, I did everything I can. I'm sorry."
Yeah. Click on my channel and go find it.
Yeah. Look where I'm wearing that shirt, and then click on that one.
Yeah,
Good
that's an
luck.
easy fix.
Yeah.
So you got 1,000 subscribers and then did you start advertising? How does that work?
I haven't started that.
Okay.
I don't know. I hate YouTube ads so much. And I also think that the check might be like 75 cents a month.
Mhm.
Um, so I don't know. I do have a very good connection with some I guess I'll spill this. I have a really good connection with um a sweatshirt manufacturer,
Hmm.
and I'm thinking about this is actually I'm wearing one of my sweatshirts that I made right now. It just says Uber on it. Like this Uber, just like that.
Oh yeah.
And you can't tell, but There are some very strategic stitching patterns that are missing that anyone who's been through the temple would recognize. So it's kind of a little cheeky. Let's just put it this way: in this logo right here, there are the garment symbols could be there,
Right.
but
somebody might be able to wear that T-shirt and get into the celestial kingdom.
Well, actually, they wouldn't, because strategically, what's missing from this are those symbols, which is it's a joke on two levels, because it's like cheeky. I'm cheekily saying, like, I promised I wouldn't sell those for money, so I specifically took them out of my logo. But it's also like on a better or a deeper note is like, these are gone now. Like, these are out of my life.
Right.
And the Uber, obviously, I kind of alluded to it at the beginning, but so Nietzsche had his theory, or his Ubermensch. The Ubermensch was the man who was like the next step of human evolution, and it was the superhuman man. It was like better in every way, and Nietzsche was like an evolutionary. Like, he didn't believe it was a battle of good and evil. He believed it was a battle of how powerful are you? Can you overtake? Can you be the next master of the evolutionary pyramid? And so, but it also means to go beyond something. And so Ubermormon is like, yeah, I absorbed Mormonism and I took it for all it's worth. And now I have the strength of a grown man and a tiny baby.
There you go.
Yeah.
Let's see. And so what are some things you've been doing lately? Some projects?
I have been mostly spending any of my creative time planning videos. Finding, like, something that I find to be really helpful for me is I'll find maybe a video where apologists are talking about a topic that I think is interesting, and they're making arguments that I wish I could say I haven't heard before, but apologists are now recycling the same 7 arguments about every topic. But I'll find one where maybe they're making a particularly good or bad argument, and I'll screenshot the timestamp and all that stuff so that I can later download it and then respond to it. So right now it's a lot of listening to stuff, screenshotting the parts that I want to respond to, downloading them, and then usually that's the point of the night where I have to run into the other room and feed a child or something like that.
Yep. And I'd like to give a shout out to Morgan Higdon of Understanding You. She's the one that helped me lead me to you. And so I
Morgan
appreciate
is
that from her.
a boss. Yes, she's awesome. And Jared too.
And so you decided not to monetize yet. My son said that he heard that half of the monetized money comes from the ads and the other half comes from the pool of money that's being collected by YouTube for the people that are paying for premium, right?
That makes sense.
And so, but I haven't heard a percentage of which is which, and how they dole that money out. So anyway, Cody, thank you very much for coming on our show.
Thank you for letting me come.
I was going to say that, I'm expecting this show to triple my subscribers.
I hope it triples both of our subscribers.
That's right. No, and call us names. I don't even care.
Yeah, tell me that I'm skinny and dumb. Yeah.
Yeah. And
or
say
boring.
That I'm old and I speak haltingly. Because, I think I was dropped a lot. I know I fell out of a couple of trees when I was young.
My second has been dropped a lot.
And so anyhow, stuff happens, right? Kids are resilient.
Yes.
I made it to 65.
Yeah.
64 and a half. I haven't made it to 65 yet. So
yeah, don't sell yourself short.
That's right. I have to cross my fingers, throw salt over my shoulder, knock on wood.
Pray to Zeus.
All those superstitious things that we know for a fact work.
Yes.
So anyway,
We do.
signing off now. Thanks everybody. Like and subscribe, and everybody go to Ubermormon and check out Cody's podcasts and let us know in the comments what you liked about the show, what you like about his podcasts, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.